Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fine.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it is Monday. Still 1 week until Donald Trump takes office here, so I'm kind of still a little bit in a wait and see. But we had that non-farms on Friday that was awfully crazy. I mean, it wasn't crazy. The action wasn't crazy. The action was pretty straightforward, but the number itself, crazy number. Another big, huge beat, and we're still kind of dealing with the after effects of that this morning. Although we are getting a little bit of upside here to start the action, at least in the treasury market. You can see here they kind of continued lower and are now retracing some of it. Who knows? You know, could we retrace? I really feel like that the treasuries are oversold. Like, something's got to give here. Probably it's going to be a little bit of both. Probably it's going to be a little bit of the S&P 500 continues to go down and the treasuries come up to meet it a little bit. But here's the S&P 500 still down from that non-farms. Now, oil. Okay, so the latest information that I have on oil is that Russian sanctions are getting a little bit stricter and Russia isn't able to get around them. That is putting less oil on the market and therefore causing prices to rise. And I believe it was Goldman that put a price target out of $85 a barrel. Although I wasn't sure if that was Brent. But we could see some more upside in oil. Really crazy trend coming through here, though. Gold and silver, well, gold and silver are actually getting hammered hard this morning. So that is also a little bit weird because the treasuries are up. Copper is looking okay. Things in China have been looking a little bit better. So that's kind of part of why copper has been on the uptrend a little bit. And here you've got the dollar. The dollar getting stronger just a little bit. Getting stronger again. Japanese yen. Now, the interesting thing on this one is you see the Japanese yen actually increased as well. So the strength was coming from the other currencies, not the Japanese yen. And then we got Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you know, trying to stop the bleeding on Friday. Did not seem to work, and now we are a little bit lower, but not below that 90,000 line yet. Not yet. So that's kind of where we're at. Let's come back over here. Let's take a look at what we've got on the docket for this week. So not a whole lot this morning. Federal budget balance at 2 o'clock. But tomorrow we got PPI and then Wednesday CPI. So those are super, super important. Also, lots of FOMC members scheduled to speak. It kind of looks like almost everybody is going to speak this week. And then you've got retail sales on Thursday. So we've got a pretty packed week to go on the economic side. And hopefully those numbers don't all come in like blockbusters like the non-farms did, right? You have a 9800 X3D. What? Oh, okay. You talking about the old video card? Anyways, let's close that. So, at the moment, while we have had some uptrend this morning, the treasuries, what we're seeing on the DOM, relatively tame so far. Not very big range, but they are pushing up on that upside at 15.5. So We are. Was 9800 a CPU? That's what it's a CPU. I'm so. Yeah, 7800. This is the 3D one. Yeah, I got you. You're just gonna give it away? Why wouldn't you just sell it? Hey, yo, your local buyer seller market. You know, you gotta help out your local market, man. Wow, Inferno Plague Palisades braces for Santa Ana windstorm as death toll rises. Dude, when like at first morning I woke up and like I was seeing stuff about it, I was kind of like, wow, this is crazy, and like a lot of stuff happening all at once, right? But now it is truly bonkers stuff. Like the video that's coming out, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Now I understand a little bit more about the geography of the area as well, which is bad. Moderna shares crash on sluggish COVID demand cuts 2025 revenue forecast. Huh? In protest, Romanians rail against do-over election targeting populist NATO skeptic. We're gonna need a new pandemic, is that one? I don't know if that. So if we were going to dive into conspiracy theory land. Oh, you know what? I'm like, something's not right about the cameras because I don't have the light on. Hold on a second. That's a little bit better, yeah? A little bit better. So, if we're going to go into conspiracy theory land, where, you know, for the sake of argument, you said that you believed that it was a plandemic, that like maybe the Chinese government intentionally released the virus, or the U.S. government intentionally let us get something to that effect, and that it was all a plan so that Democrats could win the election, right? So if that was the case, why would they want to release a new virus right now? I don't know if that really makes sense. But I don't think plans to win elections are as pertinent as money. So is now the time to disrupt global trade so that... No, that doesn't make sense either. So like here's the thing that I think is so interesting when it comes to the whole argument about globalism, essentially. Because I mean, really, when it comes down to it, what we're seeing in our day is people who have not fared well under globalism revolting across the entire Western world. And the thing that was interesting about it was that all through Donald Trump's presidency, they fought it so hard. They fought it. And then there was a shift at the end of his presidency. It was kind of like, actually, we need to have our own supply chains. And it was driven largely because of the pandemic. The pandemic damaged supply chains so much that they realized that like we were overextended on it, that there was too much risk to it, and that we needed to pull back and kind of develop ourselves a little bit more than we thought. And I'm talking, when I say we, I mean like the neoliberal globalists. Like they made this shift. So that's the thing, is like, if it was, you know, like if I was going to have a pandemic again, I would think that the people with money, the globalists, the people with power and charge, I think that another pandemic is probably the worst thing that could happen for them right now. Yeah, who is they when really all it takes to start a pandemic is a single motivated individual? Well, no. I mean, ultimately, I don't really believe that it was planned. Here's what I think happened was, I think that there was, at this point, I am leaning on that it was an engineered virus. I believe that it was, like, it wasn't intentional, I think, but I think that the virus was engineered at the lab in Wuhan and escaped. We don't know that for sure. We can't prove that, but at this point, I would say that there's a substantial amount of evidence pointing in that direction. And, you know, there's a lot of evidence that we don't have, that, you know, on the kind of like the, you know, things that like the CIA might know and stuff, that from what rumors that we've heard, that it kind of points towards that it was an escaped virus. Okay, so I think that it was an escaped virus, and that's part of why China reacted so adversely to it, but also because I think that left-wing authoritarians always kind of have this idea that if we can just force everybody to do what we want them to do, that everything will be better. This is in my it's okay, so it's funny because Izzy's talking about, do you believe that Jesus is going to return? This is a key point in my religion. Okay, so in my what Mormons believe is that before the earth was created, that everybody still existed just as spirits. And we were all told that, well, we want to, you know, be able to continue to, like, progress and get better, and in order to do that, we need to have bodies. And so we set up this whole plan where we'd go down to earth, and then people would make mistakes, so God would provide a savior, and that's where Jesus comes in, right? But what Satan said was, well, I will just force everybody to do the right thing, and then all of the glory can go to me. And that's why Satan was cast out. So in my religion, the root of all evil is the desire to force people to do what you consider right for the greater good. Right? And so when I look at leftist ideologies in particular, I see this idea very strongly. Well, we wouldn't have diseases and pandemics if y'all would just stay in when you're sick. If we can force everybody to stay in when they're sick, then we can just outright stomp the virus out. And some areas tried that, and we saw how it worked out. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Right? What do you mean your thought process seems strangely incompatible with? Or do you mean like my thought process that I'm very, very focused on empirical evidence? That's a completely different topic though, right? So anyways, I think that China, they knew that it was an engineered virus and it was bad, and they have that authoritarian tendency anyways, and so that's why they locked down. And then the West kind of got freaked out because of that, and then we had a couple of models that I wouldn't say are really very were really very good models, but there were some models that kind of suggested that the pandemic would be really, really damaging. I've never really seen this issue revisited after the fact, which kind of makes me suspicious. But, you know, would hospitals really have been overrun if we didn't flatten the curve? But Donald Trump, he made the decision based on the information that he had to flatten the curve. At that point, it then became a political thing, right? Then, because some municipalities kept things locked down way longer than was necessary. They said that it was not necessary to shut down schools, but they shut down schools. All of these sorts. So then it was kind of like a political thing, and that's what I think happened. I remember at the beginning of it, people saying, "Well, China's doing this intentionally to prevent a second Trump term." Well, when we look at it in retrospect, it definitely prevented a second Trump term. It also kind of hurt China. It was kind of strange that, like, okay, like, China could have opened back up again, and they could have been in a position, like, way ahead of the rest of the world. But then what happened was, when the rest of the world was basically done with the pandemic, they were, like, shutting down again. So whatever kind of advantage China had, they willingly gave up. So it doesn't really make sense to me still that it was, like, planned by the Chinese, you know? Like, no, but there are political things to it, right? Like, there are a lot of political organizations. Many of these organizations have been funded by Bill Gates, right? And they are basically all about being really concerned about pandemics. And, you know, so when the thing happened, you know, all of the gears started turning and they did the thing. You know, I don't think that it was any kind of like a conspiracy, like, oh, we get more money and power from this thing happening, and so we're going to let it happen. But there is a system to it that ran amok and did something that I think was profoundly damaging to our society, you know? You're basically all but incapable of witnessing or experiencing miracles? Well, no, I think here's the thing that you don't understand. Because I think that what I'm gonna say is gonna rub people the wrong way. Not like, oh, I don't like that, but like, how can you be like that? But to me is just an embrace of how we work. Is really, humans are really good at compartmentalizing things, man. Right? Like, that's the whole thing about the frontal lobe there. Like, the thing that I think makes it really unique compared to like large language models that we're developing is that your brain can basically shift which model it's using on the fly immediately. To say, I'm going to use this model in this context, I'm going to use this model in this context. And that's why you get all of these people that they can be extremely scientific, science-based people and still be deeply religious. It's because it's two completely different contexts. And when I'm at church, I'm in the religious context. And then when I'm at trading, I'm in the scientific context. And the brain has absolutely no problem separating those contexts out, right? The whole thing is like, when is which appropriate? So we say, you know, that if like, pray about like, if you want something to happen, pray about it happening and then do everything in your power to make it happen. Right? That a large part of how God works is through your actions, right? So what are the things that are going to most help me make something happen? It's going to be using empirical evidence to determine what works and carry out the things that I have been shown to work the best. Like, to me, that's what God wants me to do. I think that there is real purpose in explaining to people here how the market works and destroying the misconceptions that people have about this efficient market, because it's harming society. It's created, frankly, a dystopia of sorts. Not everybody experiences it to like a dystopian level, but like when you look at some of the decisions that we make and the way that we treat people, it's just awfully messed up, right? If ever presented with a miracle, a man heals his hands and claims to be Christ. Okay, so no. So the way that it works is that something like that has to be confirmed to you by the Spirit, and that's a different feeling. Because there's no logical way to determine that something is a miracle. Do you think that one guy whose house didn't burn down in the Palisades, like the only house that survived, do you think that was a miracle? I think that if it was my house, I would be able, that you would get the confirmation from the Spirit that it was a miracle or not. But because I'm not involved, I'm not going to get those kinds of promptings, so I'll never know. We're not talking. Well, you might need to back up because you brought that thing up, but I don't really understand why. I was at the beginning of this session, by the way, I was kind of hoping like, oh, maybe we could get an uptrend here. It's pushing on the upside, but it's kind of died down. It doesn't really look like it's. I do. You hold reality to a higher. No. I hold my trading, and I don't think that I would actually say it's a lower standard. Okay, if I held my trading to the same standard as my faith, then basically I would have to have feel good fuzzy feelings about every trade that I make in order to get myself to take the trade. I think it would be tradable, because then when you lose, like, it would just be, you'd be so shaken, like, why did God want me to lose on that trade? That's making sense. Yeah, we weren't talking about trading. We were talking about the pandemic. Or no, you were saying something about, you think that, so I didn't answer that question. Let's go back to that, right? So Mormons believe that there's basically the apocalypse, and then Jesus Christ comes again, and the most wicked people will be killed, like the murderers and adulterers will all be burned, and then everybody else will live with Christ on the earth for 1,000 years. Is how Mormons interpret those scriptures. Mormons don't believe in the rapture, that like all of the righteous people will be like taken up and then it'll just be left with everybody else. But they don't believe that. But the things that my faith would say are like, oh, second coming imminent. I have not seen. If I take a long trip to Missouri, then maybe be concerned. Okay. I'm saying is in accordance with your belief, assume that all that happens. Well, so I do not believe that all. So I believe that God is all knowing, but I do not believe that God is all causing. Okay. Like certainly if God needs a certain thing to happen for everything to work out, then he makes it happen. But he also gives us our agency. And I think that at the heart of it, when I look at the way that the universe works and everything, it seems to me that there is a fundamental amount of randomness in it. Like some people believe that, well, some scientific minds believe that everything that happens is essentially like cause and effect, like that nothing is random, that it's chaotic, so it can be very difficult for us to predict. But if we understood everything there is to know about every particle in the universe at a given time, that we would be able to predict everything about how everything would turn out, including the decisions that you would make ahead of time, right? And I don't believe that. I believe that there is a fundamental like component of randomness that is injected in there into the universe as well. And so there are things that are going to happen. I think that God can kind of see like all time at once. So like he knows what's going to happen, but he didn't like cause those things to happen, right? So I can't sit down and say like, you know, well, so it's just like, okay, so when you come back to this thing that's like, why do you choose to believe the things that you choose to believe, right? I just, like, here's the thing that I've noticed about people is that we are not very self-aware, especially not in the moment. Like, there are real inefficiencies and like logical errors created by kind of those system one fast systems, LLM type of things that we do with our minds. And in the moment we do not completely understand what we're doing, because that system, it just makes the decision and then you go with it, right? You don't, it's intuition. You don't consciously realize what's happening, right? So people can be just 100% dedicated to an idea that then after the fact they're like, what the heck was doing? And of course we're really, really good at like justifying it afterwards, right? Like explaining why our behavior did that, or why that was the right thing to do, or whatever the deal was, right? And so one of those kinds of fallacies that we will slip into is that when we feel that like we're out of power, we don't have the power, that's when we come up with all of these theories about how there's some sort of a conspiracy out to oppress us. you notice that as soon as Donald Trump became president, that the left-wing conspiracy theories on Reddit just absolutely exploded all over the place. All of these conspiracy theories about how they were able to steal the election and all of these, all of the stuff that they were getting mad at Republicans for saying for years and years and years. And they go right 100% into the conspiracy theory bit, right? So I can just see it when it's like somebody says something, there's absolutely no evidence to back it up. Why would they choose to believe that? Well, especially if I can point to a place where they feel that they're out of power, then that's almost usually it, right? Well, like I said, I'm not sure I understand, which is because now I feel like we're just going in circles. I already explained that, like, what you do in a religious context and what you do in a trading context they're different contexts, and the brain is very good at separating them. Of course, I've always had this flip side around, right? Like, the thing that just drove me crazy with Ace was that he was all, we have to logically prove things, etc., for to believe in God. But then we just take trading strategies on faith. Like why would you hold why would you hold, with the nature, something that really is not knowable, to be honest with you, and hold that to this huge evidentiary standard and not how you deal with your money. You deal with your money on faith. Okay. This doesn't make any sense. But I think that there's two sides to the way that my mind operates, right? Because there's one side which is the way that my mind operates different to most people, which is primarily that because I'm on medication, I'm much more focused on getting the job done. Okay, I'm way more interested in getting the job done than I am about how everybody feels about it and people and all that stuff. Okay, but then the second side of that is I develop systems and train my mind to work in the way that's going to be most effective within that context. I'm a programmer, and I've developed those systems. I was very, very effective at programming, and those systems translate to trading very, very well. And so this is not some like the way that, no, this is all intentional decisions, building a way of thinking and looking at the markets that is the most effective. And a lot of my content is about training you how to develop those processes in your own mind, right? But in what instance are we saying that there was divine intervention involved in something? Right? You're saying that I've done this thing, but on what? What are you talking about? What is the example? Okay. You could never entertain a global cabal directing an event, but you could entertain Jesus returning to Earth to rule for that. Okay, sure. Okay. The reason why I don't entertain the idea of a global cabal directing an event is because there's much better explanations for it that are more direct and explain what's going on. See, if you have this idea that a global cabal is directing things and doing evil things, and that's the model that you're using for the world, then you're going to constantly run into these situations when that model doesn't work very well. And especially if you're doing it on faith, right? You're going to ignore those times when that model doesn't work, right? So yes, I tend to dismiss that because I understand how these global structures work, and I can explain how the thing happened based on my understanding of that microstructure, right? We have a model of the microstructure of the market or the thing that we're talking about, and then we can use that microstructure to make certain predictions. And that is a better explanation and better explains how things turned out than that it was planned by some global cabal, right? And there's not. There is not a better explanation for the end of the world than the one outlined by my faith. Totally. Well, okay, so like not for the end of the world, but like, because really it comes down to like, okay, did God create this world and us in our spirits? That I don't think that there's a better explanation for. What do you mean an asteroid smashing into the planet makes less sense than or the end of the world? Well, no, listen. Because it all comes down to like, right, you have this one thing that you know is true, and then because you know this thing is true, then there's this whole other line of things that you can then also know is true based off of that, right? If this one individual thing is not true, then it kind of like ends all of these other things, right? So then it's like, how would the world end? How would we possibly know? At that point, why do you even care? At that point, why do you even care how the world will end? Right? If you're religious, then you care about how the world will end because there's certain lessons to be learned in that, right? You don't tell us, like, God doesn't tell us how the world is going to end unless there's like, I mean, because most people that have heard about the end of the world weren't going to be there for it, right? So why did all those people need to know about it? To prepare the world for it, and because there's lessons that they can learn from it, right? Yes, if we were to witness an extinction level event in the form of an asteroid hitting the Earth, would it nullify your faith? Yeah, I think it probably would. I don't think that it would necessarily... Well, I don't know. I think at that point, the religious context gets destroyed and you just kind of move on. But I think that there are certain distinctions made by my religion that events could happen that would falsify the religion, yes. There's varying degrees of it. But like I guess if it was like a real extinction level event, that is all humans went extinct, then we wouldn't be around to even care anyways, would we? But Yes, it would falsify the religion, wouldn't it? Well, what do you mean by the spiritual commitment doesn't necessarily need to be 100%? Like, if that happened, it would nullify the religion, but that's not going to happen. Obviously, if you believe in the religion, then you would believe that those things would not happen, right? You believe that it's going to happen in the way that the religion says it's going to happen. But the possibility that everything you believe is false, regardless of how small it may be, exists, yes. Gotta keep an eye on this. I think it's because it's a Monday and there's so much news to come that I should be able to relax, but for some reason I feel like I can't. You know what else I feel like? My shoulders are up a lot, you know, because if I put my arms on the armrest, then my shoulders are up. But I really want to be like this. Well, I really don't see how that is. Like, no, well, okay, so I would not say that there's like the possibility that it happens. Right. I think you're extending like a theoretical scenario with what I think will happen, right? I think that the possibility of an asteroid coming and extincting all human on Earth is 0. Right? But we still have to be able to admit that in a theoretical sense that, right, there you could nullify the belief. I mean, like the thing is that if you don't, then really what you're saying is like, I'm going to live in denial of reality, right? Like, so if an asteroid comes and kills everybody on the Earth, are you gonna then, in the moment that it's happening, be in denial of it the whole time, or are you going to acknowledge the reality that has happened and move on? Right? So something that's happened before in Earth's history of, well, yeah. Well, of that happening and killing all humans, I think 0, yes. Yeah, but I'm coming back to this thing that's like, because here's the thing, is like the religion can have an idea about something, right? And there are various levels of dogma, right? There are certain things where the religion is kind of like, these are things that are essential to the religion, and these are things that are maybe ancillary, right? Like, for most Christian faiths, the idea that God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost are all the same entity. They are just different manifestations of the same entity. They consider that to be core doctrine, right? Like, if something happens, if Christ comes back and Christ says, no, God and I are different people, and or you have an experience like Joseph Smith did, where he saw God and Jesus Christ, two separate people standing next to each other. Okay, right? that would falsify those religions, because it's a core doctrine. It's a core doctrine. And I think that anybody in those religions, in that situation, they have one of two choices, right? Either admit their religion is false, or deny what they're seeing with their own eyes, right? Maybe say it's a trick, it's not actually God, or something like that, right? Okay, those are like key doctrine things, right? Then there are like ancillary doctrines, like is women holding the priesthood essential to the Catholic faith? Like that only men have the priesthood? I really don't think so. Like, with the way that the Catholic Church is going, they could maybe change it. There have been churches that have changed that, right? Okay. So it's kind of ancillary doctrine, right? And then there's this other extension, which is like what I would call I also want to say like folk tales. Like there are things that people in a religion tend to believe, but is not explicitly taught by that religion. And one of the places where this kind of comes through is like you know, what was God's hand in a particular event, for instance, right? So this is where I'm kind of like, okay, why you can have faith that in the Trinity, right? But when do you have faith in that the pandemic was planned? Like no, right? That's your own idea, right? So I still don't understand where that comes into play with the whole, right? And more broadly, the only reason it's worth getting into again was to describe to you guys the processes and structures in place that lead to the result that we got, and explaining how we got to that result so that you can use that information to inform your predictions in the future. Which one of your indicators plots the reloading? What do you mean? So there's a bunch of different ways of looking at the reloading, right? But if you just want to know the number of orders added or removed, I would just do the level 2 changes, because level 2 changes is all orders added and all orders canceled. I'm exploring the likelihood that if you were in a position of experiencing a divine aspect of your faith here on earth, your mind wouldn't allow you to entertain the possibility that it were an aspect of faith becoming tangible reality. Well, yeah, I think that in the issue there is that, like, in the situation where that's happening and it matters, wouldn't really be given the opportunity to deny it. That's the way that it works. Let me tell you something. This is the way that I function. Is I point myself in the direction that I want to go, and I start walking, and I have always found that when I'm walking in the wrong direction, that God will just prevent me from doing it. Like, there's just one way or another, like, it just won't work out. If God really needs you to do something, and you are being a faithful person, he's not going to let you go astray, right? Now, if Christ were to return in my lifetime, then the prophet of the LDS Church would say, hey, this is Jesus Christ. They would have a meeting over in the conference center, and Christ would, address everybody in general conference, and we'd know that it is Christ, right? Like, you wouldn't be able to deny it. So you need, well, in that instance, yes, I think so. There could be that maybe Christ reveals himself to some people before he does other people. That could happen. That could happen. But like, here's the other thing, right? Okay, in that case, if Christ is sitting right there in front of him, I would know, I know what it's going to look like. Well, not what he's going to look like, but there are things for me to know and to be able to confirm that it's him. Okay. So this is a bad example for the thing that you're trying to explain, right? I really think so like, because I don't think you understand enough. Go and read stuff about like what Mormons do in the temple. Okay, like if you were visited by God or an angel, then there are ways of confirming it. Okay. A better example would be like you give somebody a priesthood blessing and then they're healed. Was it really divine intervention or not? Well, I have seen instances where that happened, where there was divine intervention. I have seen it. I think the thing that might be hard to grasp is that the key difference on this issue between Mormons and other faiths is that Mormons believe in personal divine revelation. And most other faiths don't, at least not to the degree that Mormons do. Mormons believe that information about like the truth that hasn't been revealed to everybody can be revealed to you, or that God can give you revelation about what you're supposed to do with your family at that time, right? And I would say that, especially, and I mean, the more orthodox you go, like Catholic, they don't really believe that to the same degree. Right? Like they don't believe that the Pope is given instructions from God about what to tell us, for instance. Mormons do, right? That's the key difference there, right? So. Like, what are you insinuating, that Jesus couldn't return and sit in front of you and not hide his identity from you? How would you know it was him? Well, I suppose he could, but I don't think that he ever would. Because Christ has a resurrected body. So, like, you would have to transmute his resurrected body. Because if you're in front of a resurrected body, you'll know it. Right, but for Mormons enacting their faith is like a fundamentally different process from other religions, because a Mormon thinks, well, oh, I have a decision to make and I'm not sure what's the right one. I'm going to pray about it, and then God's going to tell me which one. versus other religions, you're just supposed to take on faith because your priest told you or something, right? Like I feel that the larger Christian world has kind of distorted what faith is and turned it into a mechanism of control. Well, like I said, in theory, God would be so okay. This is you're getting into weird stuff, Del. Okay, so when Moses saw Christ, it describes him being transfigured, which is to say that his physical body was changed in some way in order to be in Christ's presence, essentially, right? Because Mormons believe that God has a physical body, Christ has a physical body. Okay, so in order for him to conceal his identity, he would have to transmute his body in a way to hide it from you, right? And why would he do that? What would be the situation where he would transmute himself, but then tell you that he's Jesus? This isn't making sense. D didn't ever say anything about the at each level. You can use if I mean, so here's the issue is that if you want to well you can see this, you can see them with the summary one, but I don't really have an indicator for that, because the best way to see it would be on your Jigsaw DOM to have the stack and pull column on, right? See, when we're sitting here and trading, I'm looking at it like there's a lot of orders at 16, and then they pulled those orders at 16, right? But the only time that matters that it was at 16 is this one particular situation, right? If I want to do that algorithmically, I kind of have to say, okay, there was a large stack or a pull somewhere. How many levels away was it, right? And then you can do it with my indicators, because the indicators have the level filters where you can say only show me like the max and min. So if you wanted to show it only at 5 away, then you would just set the max and min to both to be 5, and then it would only show you the ones at 5 away, right? So you kind of get into this thing where it's like in any one specific situation, I could give you settings that would filter down to that exact piece of data that you want to look at, right? But algorithmically, we have to think about what are reasonable filters that are going to work in most situations for us, right? Or no, that last little bit that I was saying, I don't know if that just, it seems like it killed the conversation there. I don't know why that. Like, I think one of the issues, if you were to take the position that like all religions are false, right, and just kind of trace the etymology of it, right, then what happens is people have a belief, and then people will identify some sort of inconsistency with that, or thing about it that they don't like, right, and then they'll go and they'll change it, right. And so in that respect, you could think of Mormonism as like that next evolution, that essentially there were some ideas that came from the Protestant, so like there was Catholicism, and then there was the Protestant Reformation. Protestant Reformation was, well, these things don't make sense. We really think it should be like this, right? And you can think of Mormonism in a similar vein. Of course, we don't think of it that way. We think that it all came from God, but there are certain things about traditional Christianity that I think don't make much sense, right? And Mormonism fixes them, right? And so some of the scenarios and things that you might seem plausible to a traditional Christian don't make sense. A Mormon would say, well, it wouldn't happen like that. Zian moving fast this AM? Oh, I don't know, man. It looks to me, I don't think I'm going to take a trade. Like, it looks to me like the market is on hold. It's a Monday. We've got PPI and CPI this week. We've got retail sales this week. It doesn't look like that the big players are there to me. There is a little bit of back and forth. So the market maker might be toying with us a little bit, but I really don't think that we got to trade. So to think about it from the empirical standpoint, right? The big question I'm asking when I'm taking a trade is there a large meta order that is going to dominate the action, right? And if there's not going to be such a large meta order, I generally don't want to take a trade, and unless I think that there's a situation where I can really, really accurately predict what the market maker is going to do. But I still am really unsure about if you can actually do that. Okay. So I want there to be a large meta order, and everything that we're looking at is basically, to help us determine this, right? The null hypothesis would be there's no large meta order in the market right now, right? And then I'm looking for information that can potentially falsify that, right? If there was a large meta order, there would be certain signs, right? And then if I'm anticipating a large meta order in the market, then it doesn't take as much for me to, see confirming signals and go with it. But today, what came in, I saw like a little bit of a hint of it, and they didn't go for it. And then since then, it's been back and forth. And I look at the news, and I can say, like, with the way that the market is, the events on the docket for this week, I shouldn't be expecting a large meta order. So the action is in line with what I'm expecting, actually, right? Delta's a bit muted, yeah. There is a little bit of a change in the delta in the 30-year and in the 5, but they're going opposite directions. So, like, there seems to be a little bit of a change in steepening, but not the outrights. This conversation, well, I think the question would be the same, but do you see where I'm saying that, like, some of the questions that you're at, the way that the specific situations that you're trying to lay out, they don't make sense in the Mormon religion context. That's not what would happen. So, yeah, because what I'm saying is, okay, like, if you go, especially like kind of more born again people, they have this kind of idea that, like, if if Jesus was walking amongst us, would you be able to recognize him? Then this is some sort of an indication of are you living right and you have faith and all of these sorts of things, right? And I'm saying in the Mormon religion, that would never happen. that is I've heard there are songs and things about that, right? But this is not something that is within the realm of possibilities in the Mormon religion, right? I've delayed too. Well, some of these things I've been waiting, and I don't feel like, because I'm still. I mean, really, the thing is, the question you're asking was still like, why would you take it on faith that God exists, or what is the right religion, or whatever the deal is, but you wouldn't take it on faith that there was a global cabal controlling everything. And my question is, why would you exercise faith that a global cabal controls everything? Right? Like, I don't. Right. Well, when it comes to religion, we could sit down and say, okay, well, through religion, it will improve your life. Here's all of these benefits that it has to you. You can follow the commandments, and by exercising that faith, you will see the benefits from it, and you can pray about it and have things confirmed to you, right? And there's a whole reason why it would be doing all that, because it has benefits to me in my life, and it has benefits to me from like my long-term salvation. But why would I want to exercise faith on that a global cabal controls everything? Right? Why would I want to believe that? See what I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. No, see, you don't understand. There are tokens and signs that if God was here on the earth in front of me, he would give me, that I would be able to verify that it was him. So you don't understand. Yeah, okay, so just trust me, okay? Just go and read up. I know that they have this stuff on the internet, right? Just go and read in depth what happens in the Mormon temple, okay? Trust me, bro. No. I don't want to talk about it on stream. Those are things that are sacred. But I'm just telling you, you can get that information somewhere. Go and look that information up. But I will speak more broadly. At the temple, they kind of do like a play, I guess, except for now it's a video. And this play is basically about the creation of Earth and Adam and Eve and stuff, right? And one of the things that happens is after they're cast out of the garden, Satan comes to try and tempt them, and he says that he's the god of this world, and they ask him for the tokens and signs, and Satan cannot give them to them. He just kind of ignores it and continues on, right? And then later, messengers from God, angels, come, and he asks for the tokens and signs, and they're given to him. Right. So in a situation, the Mormons basically believe that God has given guidelines to be able to differentiate true messengers from both in evil, like both from Satan trying to pretend to be God, because there are descriptions of that, like Satan appearing as an angel of light, right? both from that and from a human trying to pretend to be God, right? Yes, because you would see them do it. Like when I'm talking about like handshakes and stuff. So like Freemason, exactly like Freemasonry, actually. Yes. So this is kind of more because again, like the description of a resurrected body is not something that humans have the ability to duplicate. Okay? Right? Because I think that a human could like you, Uzi, could like know those signs and everything, right? And then come to me in the middle of the night and, you know, try to pretend to be God. But how would you like, you know, have a resurrected body and float above the floor and all of these sorts of things? Well, I mean, maybe if you had technology well beyond what we have here on Earth right now. Okay, but, and I don't know if all people, all Christians believe this sort of a thing, but could Satan do that? Well, Mormons believe that Satan can, you know, try and fake being God, essentially. So how would you be able to verify that it was God or Satan? And then that's out. And they basically show an example of that in the temple. So you see why that scenario doesn't make sense? The Mormon religion has essentially identified particular ways in which someone might try to deceive the members and has created checks to prevent that. You basically have a dialectic roadblock where you can say, I can't be in that position because the gate has an access. Yeah. Like, so like one of the things that, I think is really interesting is that like Satan can only lie, essentially. Like he can tell you, he can use truths in a deceptive way, but he basically always has to lie. And so, you know, there's things that he can't do, essentially. That you would be able to determine it was him. So you think about it, like again, okay, you're talking about a religion that believes that there are men on the earth that regularly converse with God. Whether they see him physically or not, I don't know, but it's strongly implied that they see him physically. Okay. So in that kind of a situation where people can receive personal revelation, how do you prevent yourself from being fooled by every person that comes along that tries to manipulate that, right? So there are checks. Did learn some things. That's cool. Yeah. Another way of describing what I'm trying to explain is uh, Mormonism is a doctrine-heavy religion, right? Like the Catholic faith, they have like these huge courses. Like there's so much to know about the Catholic faith, right? And there are other churches, like especially non-denominational churches, that are not so heavy on the doctrine, right? Mormonism is not as far as Catholic Church, but Mormonism has a lot of doctrine, right? Like I've when I was a missionary, I remember going to houses of members that had stacks of books, you know, like as tall as you, of doctrine books and stuff. It's crazy. Better than losing money. Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like a very good market so far. The first hour, does it? Does it? In fact, it's kind of turning into one of those super, super bad days, right? Where everybody that tries trading it into treasuries gets slaughtered. I don't know. Maybe if you were just trying for one tick, it might work out, but... I know. We have to go back to the start of the conversation, though, right? Which was like, if you believe that the pandemic was planned by some group or groups of people in power, right? I think that you will come up with incorrect predictions about what is going to happen in the near future. Right? Like, I don't think that it makes sense that there's another pandemic in the near future. I really don't. Because, well, for one thing, it really hurt a lot of countries. Right? So that in and of itself, I really don't think that the same dynamics could play out again in a way that would force people to, you know, shelter. Unless it was like, I'm trying to think of the name of this, like Ebola. Unless it was like an Ebola breakout or something like that, right? Something that like almost certainly kills everybody that it comes into contact with in an absolutely terrible way. And even if it was like, in order for it to become contagious, it would be certainly become less deadly, but it would still be pretty nasty, right? Like, So some sort of a more contagious Ebola, okay, that could maybe create a pandemic, right? But we've seen what's happened. Countries are not going to do that unless they felt that it was essential to the survival of that nation for them to shut down. Like, because otherwise we went through that experiment. You know what I mean? But there are organizations that are still out there, like the World Health Organization and people that are involved in pandemics, and media organizations that are incentivized essentially to make people concerned about future pandemics, right? Which is why there's almost always, you know, I think is funny is that everybody's been saying, oh, the next pandemic is around the corner. You know, like you can see the media, they're starting to plan for it, like it's coming along. But it's been like that for the last 4 years, right? Like, I think that there's just probably always going to be a little hint of something going on out there that is reported in the news. But doesn't necessarily mean that a pandemic is coming. Yeah, the virological reality is that anything worth being deadly afraid of kills too fast to result in pandemic, probably. Like the whole scenario was that the situation where a virus is not necessarily deadly, but that a virus overwhelms the healthcare system was what we were concerned about, right? And it does seem to me that that can happen, but it also seems to me that we fared okay, right? Now, was that because of flattening the curve? I don't know. Do you think that Fauci is evil? I think that Fauci abused his power, yes. I wouldn't say whether that makes somebody evil or not. That's kind of like a little bit more of a judgment call than I'm willing to make publicly. But I believe that he abused his power. He wasn't even the worst one, right? Like Burks, they knew what the administration's desired policy was, and they were intentionally undermining it. My music went out because my wife just got in the car. What do you mean by that? I never got any impression that we flattened any curves. I mean, the fact that the U.S. healthcare system didn't completely collapse would be people that are proponents of the flatten the curve theory. That would to them be positive evidence that it worked, right? So the whole theory was that we have some level at which the number of outstanding cases at any one particular time overwhelms the healthcare system. And so if you have a big spike like this, then that's going to ruin the healthcare system. And so what you do is you flatten the curve so that this part right here, let me come back a little bit. So that this part happens a little bit more gently. So instead of it happening within a day, it happens over the course of a month. And then you go down. And when you compare the area of these two curves, I guess you'd have to have it be a little bit more like this, right? But when you compare the area of these curves, which is the number of people that caught the virus, it's the same. It's just that the number of people in the hospital at any one given time never goes over the level, right? So, as far as I can tell, we were kind of like at that level, but not enough to really, really create like a, complete disaster, essentially. So, yeah, we did have those big spikes literally everywhere. But the whole thing is that I think that we kind of had this, right? And they were worried that we were going to get this, right? This did not happen. This did happen. Was it because of flattening the curve? I haven't seen studies to prove that. I haven't seen studies to say whether it did or it didn't, which is why I'm kind of suspicious about it, kind of suspicious about it, because I kind of wonder if, okay, this level that they identified as like this is where the healthcare system has problems. Yeah, that's a level, like there's reasons for that, but that like the real level at which like it's really a concern, like you'd have to say there's a certain point at which a pandemic gets bad enough that it is worth shutting down. It's just that maybe that level is like way up here, and that if we had done nothing, we would have been fine, which also seems like it might be the case. Like it would have been worse. I don't know how many more people would have died per se, but it's like the doomsday scenario was like, I'm not sure, maybe it was all the way up there, right? But I haven't seen a study after the fact to say like how effective was flattening the curve. I haven't seen that. It does seem to me that flattening the curve helped. I don't know if it was necessary, but it helped. But it also seems to me that most places went way further than they needed to. Like as far as I can tell, Utah was the only place that basically flattened the curve the way that it was supposed to. Utah was down for 2 weeks, and then after that, everything was opened back up, and it was fine. And most other states did not do that. We were still talking about places being completely shut down months and months and months afterwards. But for us, it was just that first 2 weeks. I basically didn't go anywhere for 2 weeks. And then that was it. And then everything was open back up again. And people were kind of like edgy about like, if I go out, I have to wear a mask. But you could go out and do things. I don't know. I don't know if the healthcare system is going to collapse. This bullshit. I would like to see some empirical data about what it was. I would argue that the data that we used to determine that was a problem and that we needed to shut down was faulty. Like I'm all about let's build an agent-based model and see how people behave, and we can make certain predictions about how things work and everything, right? But I think that it was an agent-based model that they were using to kind of say that we needed to flatten the curve. But the model that they had so many problems. I really don't think that they should have been making their decisions off of that. If I was in charge, what I would have done is I would have given guidance to people to stay home, but told municipalities, we don't need to shut things. You don't need to like force anybody to do or pass any laws, just let people do, because that's basically what they did in what was it, Sweden, and they were fine. Like people, businesses shut down on their own without creating all of the carnage that it created in the rest of the Western world. I've been trying these past 2 weeks. I feel like that I sweat too much while I'm streaming in here. And I don't feel hot or anything, but I'm just still sweating. Well, this downside down at the bottom seems a little bit more interesting. I'm kind of thinking, well, it doesn't seem like we're in there's a large meta order coming through, but the traders and the market maker may let it fall a little bit here and get us all excited. So something else that's going on in my mind is that, like, I want to make my own platform, and I kind of want to, like, get on with it, and I don't really have a whole lot of time to do it right now, because I spend so much time watching the toddlers when my wife is working, which has been most days. It's basically like when she's not working, I have interviews. So not any time to start on a platform like that. So then I'm kind of like, well, should I do it during this stream? I don't think that that'd be very interesting to watch. And I usually get caught up in these discussions, but like now, nobody's saying anything right now, so I could pull it over right now. Here it is. X1. Okay, help. A local variable with a similar name exists. A. Oh. Not sure I understand what they're asking. Oh. It's been too long. I don't remember any of the stuff that they had about vectors. I'll use the vector macro. So like see, I don't. There shouldn't be a semicolon at the end because that B is what's supposed to be returned. I'm gonna cheat. Oh, doesn't work that way. Oh, okay. I'm being dumb. Does it want the semicolon or not? I think I could just like be explicit about it. Turn like that. No, that doesn't compile. Problem with a hindsight criticism of how COVID was handling is that you're using data to support your criticisms that weren't available to those in real time. Well, I'm not trying to make an argument that like they should have known better or something like that, right? But I'm trying to make an argument about what would people be likely to do in the future, right? Which would necessitate what would be the optimal thing to do, right? Let me do it like this. I have some thoughts on the interview. One seemed a bit too long. I intentionally went for 90 minutes. I understand that's a long time. I think that some of the ones that we're going to do in the future, we're going to need the 90 minutes. And I kind of wanted to be able to see... Oh, actually, you know, we never looked at that. But I should have the data now. Part of it was I wanted to see how people reacted, because I've seen all of these channels with doing that, you know, where they're doing that, and it seems like the YouTube algorithm really, really likes it. How do I get to it though? What's the best way for me to get to it? Right here. There we go. Average view duration 15 minutes. Well, but those that stuck around, they stuck around. But I think we'll continue to try that. At least for the next one. Make shorter and we did actually. We have 2 and more coming. We have 2 1-minute shorts that we put out and more coming. You probably just didn't see, but we made them as YouTube shorts, so maybe you didn't see that. Watch out for doing the high energy, quick repetition of words used as filler words. Well, yeah, I don't know if I can help that. It doesn't know that these are ints. Well, are I-32s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, why does it make it an integer? Or does it need to be like this? No, but didn't. Just like in this situation, type annotation shouldn't be necessary because it should see that these are integers, I-32s, but it's not seeing that. Correctly. think I'm doing it. I think I'm close. There was this bit here that was earlier. What was that all about? That's what I want to return. I was doing it correctly. Oh, I know why. I know why. Because it's expecting as the return this tuple. And so when I was trying to return this, it assumed, oh, it must be this tuple or something. That's why I needed to have this. But otherwise, it was dumb. Yeah. Well, whatever. Output dot push element. Whoa, wait, what? It's giving me like a huge. Oh, no. It's probably. Might need to be like that. Just guessing. I think I'm using the iterator incorrectly. I don't think I'm supposed to change this line, but that line seems wrong. Oh, there's more to-dos. Oh, okay. Well, they have pushed a little bit lower. Nothing too extreme yet, though. Oh, okay. Cool. So there we go. This guy said that he would fill it, that we would fill it in by January 13th. Really? That was that specific? That's kind of weird. Yeah, that is kind of weird. I wonder how he comes to the exact date that he thinks is going to happen. That's weird. Next. Easy. You can't push to the vector because it has to be mutable. So what we do is we just say let vec equals. Otherwise, why would you say let vec equals vec? Doesn't make any sense. But there's already a vector, right? There's already a variable called vec, and so we're using I forget what they call it, but basically it kind of like within the scope of that replaces that variable for you. Should I be concerned about how much has gone down here in the treasuries? I'm not really seeing delta on it, though. Should be careful with what the S&P 500 is doing here, though. It says to just clone it. Right here. Ta-da! Problem with that is using more memory. Without adding any new line? Well, it says to just add a mutable vector right there like that. Okay. Apparently that counts. Getting some more clicky. Do you think I should have reset the DOM here a little bit back? 2 ticks down. Something happened in the 5-year. Didn't notice that. About 5 minutes ago or so, there was like this dump over here. That's a little odd. So I guess there was some iceberging there and then it fell through. So that's a little bit more, grabs my attention a little bit more, right? Semantics 4. Only by reordering the lines in the test. Okay. Let new x equal a new vector. Let y equal a mute from x. And z equal a mute from x. I see. Because at this point, X gets moved into Y, so you can't do it again. Does the compiler give us any hints? First mutable borrow occurs here. Second mutable borrow occurs here. Y dot push. First borrow used later. So I think that if I just don't do this borrow until after we've used oops, Y. Yeah. Compiler is smart enough to know, okay, use Y, now switch it up and use Z. It's when it's trying to use them both at the same time you can see error. Move semantics. All right, last one. Oh, we could probably do a whole nother category. Only add or remove references. Okay. Try removing the method call. I don't think that will work. Where is this? Let data be string get our data. I think it's this one right here where we just say, oh no, wait, it is except adding or removing the references. There's get car and there's string uppercase. Shouldn't, should. I think that these are backwards. Oh, okay, wait, I have to change this. Cool. It's a little worried there. I was like, when I do something and I'm like, oh no, is my understanding of it wrong? No, it's okay. If this was too distracting, just let me know. If you're interested in this, let me know too. Do more. Well, the treasuries haven't fallen further though. This still kind of looks like a kind of market maker shenanigans that, you know, gets everybody excited and going short and then it doesn't do anything. Really feels like that to me. Really, really strongly feels like that to me. Wow, Chuck Todd and Jennifer Rubin both to quit. That's interesting. But I wonder, let's read this story. Is the establishment resistance finally crumbling? With trust in mainstream news at all-time lows after a decade of anti-Trump propaganda, media darlings Chuck Todd and Jen Rubin are reportedly leaving their outlets just 1 week before President-elect Donald Trump is set to take the Oval Office. According to Semaphore, NBC host Chuck Todd has quietly been meeting with Washington media organizations about his post-NBC future, reportedly telling top editors and leaders from other media organizations that he's out of there when his contract is up this year, and has discussed potential roles with the network in both broadcast and digital media. Todd was once a key part of NBC's broadcast offerings, hosting Meet the Press and a daily Meet the Press politics program on MSNBC and writing for its website. But while NBC announced that Todd would focus on long-form projects after stepping down from Meet the Press in 2023, he has been a far less visible presence across the news network and its cable counterpart, Semaphore. Meanwhile, Washington Post's resident resistance crone Jennifer Rubin is leaving the outlet as well, and will be teaming up with former White House ethics czars Norm Eisen to launch a new startup called The Contrarian. Oh boy, what is The Contrarian? The Contrarian is that alternative, unflinching, unapologetic, and unwavering in its commitment to the truth-telling. Okay, so basically, it's a media outlet that's even more far left than what the media would let them be. Okay. Well, I'm interested. So the thing that I was interested in was, like, you've seen a lot of people on the right. They will leave traditional media outlets and then they'll move to go and do things on their own. And I think that some of them are kind of seeing that, like, the writing on the wall for mainstream media. But I'm not sure if that's the case with Chuck Todd. It kind of sounds to me like Chuck Todd is just fed up with MSNBC overall. Glenn Greenwald. Genuinely hilarious that Jennifer Rubin and Norm Eisen, two of the most banal people in media, are calling their new anti-Trump Substack page The Contrarian. Neither has ever expressed a single idea that's not prevailing wisdom in corporate media and establishment DC. If there's one word that I think of when it comes to your work, it's definitely contrarian. Right. Carol Markowitz. First of all, every single eye roll rather than anti-Trump. The founders described their venture as pro-democracy. But second, Jennifer Rubin is editor-in-chief. I give that 6 months. She's abrasive and nasty. One thing to write a column with that personality, another to manage people. And Eric Erickson says, to Carol's point, putting Jennifer Rubin in a management position is an objectively terrible idea. The company might as well make all the employees wear sandpaper as underwear. Get them prepared for the office environment Rubin will produce. Jeez. Okay, well, that's interesting nonetheless. That's definitely going to be discussed in political circles. That's something worth highlighting there a little bit. Hostage deal awaits final Hamas approval. I did see stuff about that. Did you guys see this poll that showed that like 60% of people in Greenland would agreed with, you know, joining the United States as a territory, essentially? I was like, what? How would that even work? They don't even, I mean, I think that most of them speak English, but like, it's not the primary language there. I don't know if that would really work out. But I do see why the United States wants more control over what goes on in Greenland. Yeah. But I kind of thought that this was the thing that's funny about this one. Okay, I think that this is all just Donald Trump either playing the media or just kind of like trying to the art of the deal sort of a thing, right? So this is the art of the deal kind of a thing. Oh, you're gonna invade us and take us over, and we don't want that. Let's negotiate, right? But then if like that actually ends up in the United States owning Greenland, that would be hilarious. Probably still unlikely to happen, but it seems like a lot more likely to happen than before that poll. Good grief. Good grief. Okay. Oh yeah, I was just kind of poking around, make sure I don't get anything. Don't miss anything. Liberal tears. Trump is at his strongest right now? Maybe. I mean, right now, maybe not. Because he'll be at his strongest when he's actually president, right? But I guess there's a possibility that as soon as his executive orders go out, that they don't go so well, and By the way, we are back into the range in the Treasury. Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Can I end with something else like completely left field here? There was this thread other day that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed it. Where is it? Come on. Yes, it's this one. Okay. This title from r/buttcoin by Lab Crazy 2600, titled "I've left the cult." Okay. According to this person, I worked in the crypto space in both dev and BD roles between 2020 and mid 2024. I've helped launch big projects. I've had 50x, 100x trades. I've been recognized at the club and told by random motherfuckers that they lost 20k on my coin. I told them that if they bought on Uniswap, it's their problem. This is not a shit post, I promise. I've experienced the conference culture firsthand, how crypto bros fly into places like Paris, Miami, or Denver just to party with the same people, do drugs, and listen to Deadmau5 live for the 69th time. Hell, some of these events even hire girls to make crypto virgins feel like they're finally about to get all of the bitches CT implied they'd get. I'm looking at you, Dubai. I had good times, bad times, I made money, I lost money. However, what I worked on and the space I entered was completely devoid of purpose and meaning I was expecting when I naively walked into the space in 2020. I thought we were going to change the world. However, the grifters took over and every single founding principle of the space has gone to the wayside. Ultrasound money got replaced with 50x leverage on your daily shitcoin of choice. Decentralization got replaced with 3 bros on a multi-sig. Fighting the system got replaced with crypto bros spinelessly simping for the world's richest man on the social media platform he owns and manipulates on a whim. I've slowly woken up to reality, and now that the cat's out of the bag, I can't even go back to this life. I'd rather kill myself than deploy another shitty token protocol and bot contract, or do business development on Telegram, hop on spaces, trade meme coins on leverage, incorporate shell entities, have an NFT PFP, or go to another effing conference side event. Money isn't everything. This culture consumes you, and next thing you know, you're staring at a 2-monitor setup with Telegram X, some candlesticks, and VS Code in tiled windows, You're on your third Monster Energy drink of the day, haven't showered, all your friends work in crypto, and you can't relate to normal people anymore. Your entire identity is based around how records on a cryptographic ledger will replace the legacy financial system. It's a cult. The tech has its uses, sure, but it's getting ridiculous. Look, I don't know where I'd be without crypto. I'm not set for life, but I'm doing pretty good. I just don't want to spend the rest of my life working on something not meaningful. The entire space is centered around a class of people looking to extract as much value out of society as they possibly can, and that's excluding the outright scammers. I have seen how little people in the space regard those who are less fortunate than them. They feel like they are the in-group and everyone else are NPCs. No, seriously, some bros genuinely believe normies are NPCs, like simulated agents. They go to obscure digital nomad tax havens, live in a bubble, refuse to learn the language, contribute nothing to the local economy, drive up prices, and then have the audacity to bitch about the locals. These guys worship Elon and Donald Trump because they think it'll make number go up, or maybe they fell for MAGA because it appeals to their dislike of normies and the marginalized. Ironically, the same people we were supposed to help with our fancy, decentralized ledger technology. A technological movement designed to liberate the masses from unfettered crony capitalism has been usurped. Its believers have gone from being creators of positive change to literal vassals of the new United States techno-fascist oligarchy backed by the KGB. Okay, so this guy clearly is thinks that Donald Trump is doesn't like Donald Trump, I guess, but that's beside the point. It began with Black Zero, the Times 03 January 2009 chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. 16 years later, the retards are rejoicing that the MAGA movement government will inject capital into Bitcoin. It has become everything it was against. Satoshi is spinning in his grave, or the government agency that invented this shit is rolling hard right now. I'll say it out. The government agency that invented this shit is rolls on the floor laughing hard right now. These morons are living in a bubble, prancing around the tulip farm, thinking they're all going to become UHNW individuals. Well, guess what? That's literally not enough capital in the world for that to happen, especially not with your grifter, dark MAGA overlords hoarding it. XY equals K and your 7-figure net worth goes to zero the moment motherfuckers start selling on the DEX. Crypto bros are parasites and I fucking hate them. Instead of preventing the downfall of society, they want to accelerate it and literally put E/A account in their bios. This is the year I cut off most people I used to call friends. Something is really wrong, and it's not just in crypto. If this shit doesn't end, the techno-fascists are going to win and we'll all burn in the world's energy resources on mining rights and GPU instances on AWS running slop LLMs that run 24/7 replying to other LLMs, drowning out all human internet activity. They're going to play their little games with each other and most of us will be left on the side, fucked in an overpolluted hellscape. It's like if tech bros got rich and read books about how private equity firms and shitify things to squeeze all of the value that they can out of them. I've tried telling my friends in the space what's going on isn't right. However, everyone seems to be brainwashed by Elon's feed algo modifications. Maybe if I took this post, put it into Gitbook, and marketed it like some crap on Pump Fun, I might get through to some people. I've wasted a lot of time on here. I should have dumped my entire portfolio in January 2022 and fucked off. 3 years later, I've learned my mistake. Thanks for letting me vent, guys. I've tried doing this with a therapist once, but got annoyed because I had to explain all the crypto stuff. Can you believe this? It's just crazy. That guy really has some like pent up anger, but you know what? Like a lot of the things that he's saying in there, like especially this whole thing that's like, if this shit doesn't end, the techno-fascists are going to win and we're going to burn all of the world's energy resources on mining rigs and GPU instances on AWS, running slop LLMs that run 24/7, replying to other LLMs, drowning out all human internet activity. They're going to play their little games with each other, and most of us will be left on the side. The thing that drives me nuts about the world that we live in today is that nobody is looking to actually create value. Nobody sits down and says, here's some idea that I have that could benefit somebody else. Here's, things I can tell people that will make their lives better. None of these people that are at the top and making money care about that stuff anymore. All they want to do is try and extract as much money from other people as they possibly can. And the less that they have to give in order to get that, the better for them. And you cannot have a living economy in that kind of a world, man. It's just going to eat itself up. And eventually, your growth will be so slow and the growth in your debt so high that the whole thing just collapses in on itself. People have to act, you have to actually provide value. And I think that these tech bros have just bought completely into this thing that like the market is perfect and whatever the market says is truth, and let's manipulate things as much as we can to get the market to do what we want, and then we're good people. And but I don't think it works like that. I think that they've been I think that they are essentially like vampires on society to some extent, in as much to the degree that they aren't providing value back. And I wouldn't say that necessarily like the big guys, that, because like Jeff Bezos is a great example. Like, he has created a lot of value. A lot of people making money off of Amazon. He has created value to the world. But it's like all of these people following them is just like this army of idiots, that are all trying to squeeze as much out as they can. And I'm so sick of it. And that is exactly why, like before I was like, well, I don't think that Bitcoin is a good idea. But what I see is a lot of people with maybe some well intentions that are just maybe misinformed, and maybe we can direct them in the right direction. But now what I see is I just see a group of people that are rotten to the core, that trying to provide them value and direct them in a more valuable, useful direction for society is pointless, because they don't want to provide value to society. They just want to squeeze as much money as they can for themselves. And that's why I just don't really mess with the cryptocurrency space. It's not even really very funny to me anymore. I used to laugh about it, but now it's not. This post is funny, but that would be work. Yeah. I don't know. Some of them work awfully hard just to screw other people out of money. That's the thing that's crazy, is that if you actually build value, like it's easier, but then you actually have to have a real vision, which is the hard part. I used to be, when I was a kid, and when I say a kid, I mean like in my early 20s, I had all these ideas. Like I had all these games that I wanted to make and applications that I thought, and on a daily basis, and things that like I was always like, oh, I need to write this stuff down, and I wasn't writing enough things down, and not having enough ideas. And basically what happened was Facebook came along and I think killed that. Like that creativity, this like, oh, we could make a website like this and we could make a website like that. It all just went away, because it was like, well, yeah, but just make a Facebook group, right? Like, you don't have the ideas anymore. And now that I'm in a position, well, maybe not this exact moment, but generally speaking, I've kind of been in a position where it's like, oh, if I have an idea for a business, I have the ability and skills to go in and do it. And I don't have the business ideas that I really like anymore. I'll have, like, I'm trying to find one and, I can't really find anything that fits. That's so frustrating to me, is that I want to provide more value to the world. I'm doing the thing that I think is the most valuable thing I think I can give people. And I don't seem to be going anywhere with that thing, and I don't get any other ideas that I think could be more successful. It's very frustrating. But maybe that's just like, again, I get this thing to where if God really wants me to go in a certain direction, he just makes sure that it happens. Like I can't just go straight. It won't let me do that. So like if there was really another direction I should be going, he would be giving me the prompting. It's not, which means that I need to just keep following this, right? I do very much like the idea of making a platform, though. I wish I had more time for it. But you know what? I think that we're going to do this wrestling thing. I'm going to finish all 94 of these exercises. We're about a third. I'm about a third of the way through it, so I'm going to get through it. And then we're going to start writing stuff. And we'll make a platform, I guess, here on stream. Something like that. Or maybe just me, like, programming it and thinking about it out loud and you guys ignoring me. Because I don't know if you really want to see me write the actual code. Well, trying to decide if there's anything interesting worth noting about the treasuries. You know what? There is. Let me come back over here. Here before we go. There is a little bit of a shift in cumulative delta there. The spread has been flat, generally speaking. There does appear to be a little bit of a rise in inventory on the buy side. So like there was this move down and the market makers took it and then it reverted back up a little bit. But some signs that there's a meta order in there, which means that we could possibly see more downside action. But it's very, very subtle. It's very, very subtle. So it's not enough to trigger, especially in on a day when I'm really not expecting many super large meta orders. They typically don't come in on Mondays, and especially not when there's a lot of big economic news coming out later this week. So tomorrow probably should be a more interesting day. I will see you guys then. In the meantime, stay excellent.